All right. So this week we're gonna focus on the first and the most central tool in project management, which is the work breakdown structure. And so I'll just give a quick overview of this chapter I wrote on this. Essentially, this is just an instruction or it's a description of what the work breakdown structure is, the WBS, and some like sugge- um, the suggestion to try it out on a project. So the main points here is the WBS, or the key point, the main work of project management. I actually made a diagram here. Is that you're bringing an idea to reality. The first step really is to know, or what brings the idea to reality is the work being done, and then essentially it's like identifying what that work is, and then doing that work. So the WBS is really about identifying your scope, and then and it's the execution of the scope is simply doing the work. It's either yourself as doing your executing your task management system, or assigning it to your teammates. So this is essentially the the heart of project management is the WBS, and then the other tools that we'll be discussing in the next weeks are really um, just assists in building the WBS. Also, the WBS is the input to these other tools that we'll be um, discussing in the next weeks. Um, yeah, and then this is a very simple example. So I was deliberating whether I should uh, show an actual example, which might be more complicated, or the simple example. So I just decided to show both. So this one is a simple example. For instance, what is the WBS for the project of a birthday party? So I'm not an experienced birthday party organizer, but I imagine this is you have the food, you have the invitations, you have the setup of the area, and you have the cleanup. So that's what I imagine what it would take to organize a birthday party. And then in each section, you do this is essentially creating a organized to-do list, the WBS. So this is like a basic example. If you want and this is an actual example of a WBS. So this is from a project I'm currently doing. So this is, I mean, too small to actually um, make sense, but just to show like what an actual WBS could look like. This is also made in Rome, but I use this plugin from David Vargas to convert something like this, and then it just produces a different view. So you just add it. I haven't installed it in this particular graph, but it's pretty straightforward how to install this. Um, so really now it's a matter of using this. Um, the best way to really learn this is to make use of the WBS, and then the actual usage is the more important thing rather than the output. Like the process of creating a WBS shows you a lot of things. For instance, like what don't you know about the project? So it shows you like the gaps in our knowledge of our what needs to be done to make this project a reality. So once we see this gap, the next step is to to fo- uh, to to fill this gap. And then the usual ways of doing this, for instance, like interview people who have experience in this kind of project. Um, so also in mature project management organizations, there are actually like old work building structures of a similar project. You could just use that. This is also one reason why um, or this is another benefit of doing project management this way, because once you have done a project once, you could just reuse those documents in similar projects in the future. um, Another way is like for instance, this particular project, this project is like we brought in some sequencers here in the Philippines, and we just last Tuesday, 2 days ago, was the first time that any sequencing of SARS-CoV-2 or any organism was done here in this part of the country. And then for me to understand that kind of project, I looked at journal articles, so on what needs to be done. So fortunately, I found some. So for technical projects, there might be some papers somewhere, and then a blog post. I've also seen that, and also another way is to, like, for instance, if you're doing a very technical project and you're working with technical experts, and then you're not familiar with that domain. So what you can do is just to create to do a workshop, and then in that workshop, you could just ask them to fill out, for instance, a timeline of what they need to do. I should put here a image of workshop. Yeah, so this is very straightforward. So the main thing really here is actually doing it. So, and then once you decide to do, to set what the actions for, improving or growing your WBS. So you can just add that on your WBS itself. Like I normally put it under the project management branch of the WBS. Interview this person or that person, and then yeah, the structure is really up to you. It's like, it just follows how you think. And then the next step, so once you have your initial WBS, for us to prepare for the next tools, you just wanna analyze it a bit. So for me, I just actually just add some tags for in the WBS so that it's easy to filter. For instance, like what work packages. So work packages are the bottommost the endpoints of these branches. So these are the bottommost blocks. So these are called work packages in the language of the Project Management Institute. And then what I just do is I just tag those blocks. For instance, this one has some cost. This one is, I feel this is the riskiest part of the project and will cost me a lot of time. This one I need to hire a person to create the invitations. So this one, yeah. So I just tag those things so that in the next what you call this, when I'm using the other tools, I could just filter this, and I don't need to rethink again. So what I just did here. So, and also once if you're working with other people, so you could also tag these blocks with the names of your teammates. So for instance, if you're assigning the creation of the invitations to someone else, so you could tag this with the person's name, so that, for instance, in a weekly meetings or weekly follow-ups, you could just look at that person's name, and then you could create a filter to see um, what you need to follow up the person with. So you could also put there, the status, like, ongoing, done, and then that could also be another filter to just, when you meet, you could just see the tasks related to the person, and then which are still not completed. Um, so that's it. This is a very straightforward tool. So the main, I guess, the main um, effort right now would be to actually just what you call this, um, to do this, and that's the learning activity. Do you have any questions, Bruno?
I have a few questions.
Mhm.
Nothing major, but maybe it would help to make it. First question was, I wrote roughly ordered by time or priority, but it's not yet placed into time. Yeah, it's
Yes, yes.
just just ordered. So, for example, you put the cleanup at the end because it's easier to see it like this. But the work break, the WBS is not yet a planning.
Yes.
Is it correct?
Well, this is part of the planning. So you're planning the scope. So you're breaking down the planning. So first, we're planning the scope. The scope is like the work needed to complete the project. And then later on, we'll plan the schedule. So how will we arrange that work across time? So it's going to be a different activity and a different tool.
Okay. Then I had the question on the mind map, but that's maybe book because I'm a lot in mind map. So what you show me is more a tree. Yeah. What I mean is there is no imbrication. There is no interleaving of tasks as far as I see, or I can be wrong because it's a little bit small, but um, uh, the arrows are only going one way. There is no arrows coming back.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
which led me to think at this stage of the breakdown, you are not looking at dependencies like these tasks need this one to be completed because it takes the input of this task. Are you putting these kind of details inside this level, or does it come later?
Not yet at this point. And if there are a lot of dependencies, like for instance construction, I would not
Mhm.
use Roam for that. I would use another tool which has that functionality. It's probably, I just couldn't think of doing it in Roam. It's just too much of a hassle. You could probably
Yeah.
do it. Like you could have like this. You could tag something or one task with maybe for a few dependencies. That makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I'm sure someone could figure it out. But me, I'll write
Yeah.
if something really like. By the way, Bruno, what may I ask? What project are you looking at applying this on?
Uh, uh, to be honest, I need to look again because I wrote something last week and I don't remember exactly what I wrote.
Mhm.
So I will take 1 second and go back to look.
No problem.
Um, I'm also thinking in project in general, in big software project, for example,
Mhm.
where you have this problem. I think in Rome you could do it with block reference. You could, for example, take the block reference of the dependency
Mhm.
and put it into the project which needs it.
Yeah, like for
Uh, this is especially true when you go in the learning stage. What I wrote later was okay, uncover gap, what you don't know on the project, what needs to be done, and then interview people who did one similar, reuse past experience, etc. And so it means at some stage that could be in some project tasks which are learning tasks. It's not really for the project itself. It's just to allow people to learn how to execute later.
that
And
could
of
be.
course, the learning must be done before the execution of the task. I'm
Yes.
thinking, for example, let's take an example, set the table. Okay, so if it's a big birthday party, you want to be sure that you follow the rules, that you do it properly. Uh, so maybe you could imagine that set the table require to take a course on how to do
Table setting. Yeah.
table settings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
so this has to be done in the preparation stage, but the execution will require this stage to be done.
mhm. Yeah. So this is just like I mean, now like we're already seeing more possibilities. So now that we're looking at
Yes,
this, we are imagining, if we're gonna do this, what needs to be done. So the tree will expand if as we do
yes.
that. And you mentioned like actually that's a pretty good idea. Like for instance, buying groceries, you actually put here dependency. Singular, and then you could just use this the block reference here. So I mean that could work,
Yes.
you know. Um,
Yeah, that would work. And now I had a question, but you answered the question. Meanwhile, is I was wondering if each branch must have the same depth, if you need to detail to the same level everything, or you just go down and drill down to the level of the what you of the work package. So
yeah,
work package don't need to be all at the same level. That's what
no,
I
no need,
got.
no need. Yeah. So the
No
it's
need.
it's really up
Okay.
to you. Like what will make sense to track. So for instance, like now, like because I'm not an expert in this domain, so setting the table for me is like just set the table, or maybe my imagination of the birthday party isn't as big as you're thinking. So, but if this birthday party is like maybe like 500 people, so maybe this could be like several layers deep. Like setting the table is actually like a whole day's work or something like that, and you need to prepare. You buy your tablecloths, you hire experts in whatever. So this could be several layers deep. So it depends on, and then there are some rules of thumb as well on the size of the work package. So my what guides me is really like, could I track it? And it's like one cycle. Like for instance, I'd like work packages to be completed in a week, for instance, if I'm assigning it to someone, because normally my meetings and projects is weekly. So, or depends on the how fast the project is done, but normally it's weekly. So I want a work package to like when I ask someone, okay, so how is going? So within the week, I want another work package to assign to that person, because the it's a universal phenomenon that called Parkinson's law, which says that the work expands to the amount of time you allot to it. So if you allot 1 month or a task, the it will be the same as allotting 1 week. The work just expands. So I like the work package to be like the size of around a week for projects that spans months. But for some kinds of work or some kinds of projects where it's like it's very compressed, so you may need to meet every day, so that the work package could be a daily thing. Like it's like this is a work that needs to be completed in a day. um some people, that's another rule of thumb I've heard, like 8 hours. A work package should be 8 hours. So but for me it's really just whatever makes sense. And this I go by gut feel.
Okay. It makes sense for me too.
Any other questions, Bruno?
No, no more questions. It's perfectly clear at this stage.
Cool. So maybe a great next step would be to actually create a WBS, and then if you have any questions, just message me maybe in Slack. So because like that's the best way to really learn this, and for us to see whether this chapter could actually help in helping in creating that word package, or that WBS.
Yes.
Cool. So that's basically it. Yeah, this is really this first week is really about building the WBS.
Okay, very good. So I will use my private space, my private room, prepare it in it.
Mhm.
And do you want me to share it with you in one way or another?
Sure. I'd, you could I send you my email for Rome, and then just
Okay.
once you've shared it, or if you want, you could just share a screenshot if that's easier for you, and then we could talk about it.
Yeah, a screenshot or a markdown should be enough, I think.
Yep. Yep.
It will be enough. I don't think yet I will go into block reference and playing with dependencies at this stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that's very clear. So you will have the same meeting later today. For you, it will be the next day. For the US.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Okay. I'm sorry, but the US group is really too late for me. It's like 2 a.m. in the night.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. That's
it's
why
really too.
I'm doing two, because like it's impossible to just do one. Like there's always someone who's at 1 a.m. or 3 a.m. and wherever you. So I guess this is the best we can do, having two meetings.
So like this, you have a small rehearsal in the morning. You can check that you are well prepared, and then you can redo it with a larger group tonight.
Yes. Yes. I hope a larger group.
I never learned project management formally. I have been running big projects over several months or years, but I never learned formally. So for me, it's an occasion to learn how somebody who is a professional of project management is doing it compared to my intuitive way.
Yeah, your way probably works best for you, but I don't know, because this one, since what really helped me was like since I learned this when I was starting, so I guess like I got some. I just found this helpful in running projects. I'm not a naturally organized thinker, so I needed these structures to help me, you know, uh, organize my thoughts. So I found these helpful. These tools.
Yeah, I went to a few training from the PMI, not, I mean, the kind of free training they give. But I was overwhelmed by the terminology, the number of rules of terms. I mean, it's instantly too big.
Yes.
It,
Yes.
it looks like there is no middle term between somebody who is doing it simple so you can understand on an example like the birthday party, or extremely complex like building a nuclear power plant.
Yep. Yeah. It's also another problem is like there are specific ways of doing it or different domains. Like construction is a very different from software development.
Yes.
So it's necessarily very on an abstract level, because and then yeah, and then like normally when they train, it's like this pack everything in 2 or 3 days. To get overwhelming. So what I'm trying to do in this art book, and hopefully if you get feedback, if it's fulfilling, that it's like to to present that huge thing into something more digestible.
Yes.
Is your delivery there now?
Sorry.
Your delivery, yeah, is it there?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm looking. But I keep on one eye. I have one eye on the window and one eye on you.
Cool. Cool. So
Okay. So
anything else, Bruno, I could help you with?
it's okay for me. It will be, and my next step will be to work on what you explained and process this stage on my own project.
Yes. Yes.
That's what I'm going to do
That'll be best.
for the next days.
And then just reach out to me if you have any questions, and if you want to show me your WBS, happy to look at it and talk about it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks as well. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Have a good night. Bye bye.